did a TED Talk 2 years ago in June. It was published in June 14th, 2023, and it's done tens of millions of views on YouTube. It is titled, "The Next Global Superpower
is Not Who You Think." Yeah.
And I was looking at the comments section earlier, and some of the top comments are, "You called it a year ago and you were 100% right." There's another one here saying, "Hello, writing to you from a year in the future. I have some bad news about 2025. You were right." What were you right about?
I guess what they're saying, you and I have been talking about the US and China and traditional geopolitics. What I was saying is that increasingly the world is moving beyond geopolitics, and that the most important new global leaders aren't countries. They're technology companies that are writing their own rules. I was looking how the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that war started not on the 24th of February, but the 23rd of February, when Microsoft found out about all of the cyber strikes that were hitting Ukraine and made the US government and the Ukrainian government aware of it. I look at Elon Musk and providing Starlink. If it wasn't for that, I'm not sure that the Ukrainian government was going to be able to fight these guys on the ground. They wouldn't have been able to communicate. Zelensky might be gone. These were companies. The US government at that point was scared about sending all the military support, but the companies were making a big difference. Now I see that these new AI tools, like we saw with Anthropic and Mythos.
For anyone that doesn't know, Anthropic released a new AI model, which they say is so capable that it presents the world with a really fundamental security risk to all of our technology. They say in their report that in testing, this new model, this new type of AI could find security vulnerabilities in lots of different applications and software applications that we use. So essentially, it posed a cybersecurity risk. It could hack a lot of banks and
critical infrastructure, your power grid, water systems, anything with software. And not just like the things that a hacker could get to, but every bug that could be exploited. So it's so powerful that they couldn't release it because it would have been an immediate systemic risk to the global economy and our security.
And do you believe them? I say this because I heard some people debating whether this was marketing talk for them as a company to say, look how powerful we are, that we're not going to release this model because it's going to cause that much harm. Or do you think they are being responsible?
It is inconceivable to me that a company that is this capable of raising money and this capable of talking to the markets is not going to have a communication strategy that is fully aligned with that. Mm-hmm. So of course there's marketing here, but this was a real risk. Mm-hmm. When you have Jerome Powell, the chief of the Fed, and Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, looking at this and immediately calling an urgent meeting of all the CEOs of the banks, saying we have to deploy this internally. And you have JP Morgan. Jamie Dimon is by far the best at cybersecurity in terms of the big banks and the big US institutions. And he considers this a 5-alarm fire. I take this very seriously. Mm-hmm. I think this is actually a big deal that also happens to be useful for Anthropic's marketing, not least because Anthropic had just been in a big fight with the Defense Department, and the US Defense Department saying, we don't want these Anthropic guys because they're woke, right? I mean, they refuse to let us use and deploy their AI in our targeting or our surveillance, so we're going to take them out of our system. Well, it turns out you can't afford to take these guys completely out of your system because what they're doing is too important for American national security. So the timing is convenient from that perspective. But this risk is real. And it's real because it needs to be deployed immediately to find these bugs and to patch them before other people have those tools, because other people will have these tools in very short order.
And so on the scale of risks that we have in front of us here, critical, severe?
Yep, also severe.
Okay.
Again, it would be critical if we were talking about 2 years out, because we're talking about this year and it's already April, it just happened. I would say severe, but my God, underappreciated. Because the amount of attention this gets on headlines compared to Iran or Venezuela, compared to China, is still tiny.
And is that because of unemployment, because AI is going to take our jobs, or is it something else? Is it the nuclear? What is it?
No, I mean, if what I just mentioned with Anthropic, like if suddenly your systems are hackable by anyone that has access to this tool, your markets are going to go down. Your banks aren't going to work. Your data is going to be stolen. You know, imagine if the Russians have that capacity, what they would do with it. If the Iranians today had that capacity, what they would do with it. They will. These AI tools are becoming available to anyone with a laptop or a cell phone. So, I mean, suddenly, in the same way that the war in Russia is much bigger than Ukraine. And yet in the last 3 months, Ukraine has actually taken territory back from Russia. How is that possible? Technology, drones, right? They have become the most capable drone producer in the world at scale. So much that when the Iranians were attacked by the United States and they counter-hit, what did the Americans do? They called Zelensky, remember the guy that didn't say thank you in the White House, and they said, could we have your help with your drone technologies in figuring out how we combat Iran for our Gulf allies? So technology is changing the world so fast. And it turns out that the biggest way it's changing our security and the economy is AI.
On this point of AI, I actually was watching a video this morning before you arrived, which I thought I'd show you because it's quite dystopian, but what you'll see in this video is true and it's happening around the world. And I don't think anybody has any ideas. This is the video. I'll play it for those of you that are looking at the screen at the moment. Can you tell what's going on in this video from watching it?
It looks to me like the work that they are doing is being monitored real time, presumably by some external source. You're going to suggest to me that the external source that's monitoring them is not a human being, but is artificial intelligence.
Yes, kind of. What's happening is a company has paid these Indian workers to wear cameras on their heads, to watch their hands, to train the AI so that the AI can do that job in the future.
To remove the workers from those jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like sitting on the branch of a tree and you yourself cutting there's this meme I'll throw up on the screen. It's of a guy sat on the branch of a tree and he's cutting the branch himself. And what you're seeing here is because the AI companies and the robotics companies need real world data of these jobs being done, they're now asking the workers in the factories to record themselves doing it so that they can replace them.
Yeah.
It's I laugh because it's slightly terrifying.
It's slightly terrifying, and yet it's also slightly empowering, depending on what we decide to do with the wealth that comes from this. Because let's face it, most human beings do not want that work to be what self-actualizes them.
What kind of political system do you need, or social system do you need in such a world where a lot of the work that we do today is being done by these intelligent machines and a huge amount of people don't have work? I was saying to you before we started recording, a friend of mine called me the other day and he had a conversation with one of the most successful technologists in the world that everybody knows. And he said, next year is the year where the unemployment because of AI really will take hold and people are going to get increasingly annoyed. They also said that they think the Democrats, even though I think this person might be Republican, they think the Democrats are going to win the election because the impact of AI is going to be so severe next year in terms of unemployment that people are going to associate the Republicans with being the pro-AI party. And I saw another report last week saying that AI is now less popular than ICE in the United States. And just as a podcaster who has conversations about this, I know people are not happy. I know they're not happy. I see it in the comment section, in part because we don't see it flowing down and making people's lives better. We see major corporations getting richer.
And so the funny thing, that video you showed me, most people in the global south are very excited and enthusiastic about AI because they think it's going to give them tools to improve their human capital, to improve their opportunities. China, the Chinese are very excited about AI because they think that it's going to make their lives better. The Americans, the Europeans are not. They worry that this is actually going to undermine their jobs, particularly their white-collar jobs, their knowledge worker jobs. And what I think is going to happen politically, I don't agree that we're going to see massive unemployment in the US next year. I think there's going to be much more friction. And most CEOs don't want to get rid of a lot of their workers unless they have to. So unless there's a major economic downturn that gives them that excuse, I think it's going to take a lot longer. And I also think that social mobilization, longshoremen in the United States, like said, no AI, you're going to protect our jobs. And they were willing to actually demonstrate. They mobilized and it kept AI out. There'll be a lot of resistance that will slow this process down. But what I do think is going to happen, I think you'll see it politically. I was talking to someone I know reasonably well, a senator, U.S. senator, who was saying, can't talk right now. And pro-technology person, pro-business person, centrist, right? Someone you and I would recognize as such. Say, I can't talk about data centers. I've never seen people, my constituents, so upset about an issue as they do about data centers.
AI data centers.
AI, they said that no jobs energy prices going up, water prices going up, zoning looks horrible in their neighborhoods. They're growing like topsy, huge amount of investment. Everyone hates these things. I mean, Trump in the United States won on the back of a lot of men who, many of whom had good jobs and were making good money, but they didn't necessarily have advanced degrees. Mm-hmm. And they felt like the world was moving away from them. They saw robotics and automation on their factory lines. They saw free trade and jobs going to much poorer, much less expensive labor around the world, China especially, but India, other countries. They said they saw immigrants coming in, but you're not taking care of me and my family, so why am I letting that happen? You see this in Europe too. This is the Nigel Farage movement, like lots of stuff, right? They voted Trump in, not once, but twice. Despite everything he is, everything he stands for, they voted for him. We haven't seen women with advanced degrees, urban and suburban, worried about their jobs and worried about their kids. And that wave of populism is coming, absolutely, in 2028. And that is, AI is a very big piece of that. AI, data centers, and the rest. So in that regard, I agree that there's going to be a real political wave here. And I don't yet know who the political figures are that are going to respond to that. I don't think that person today exists in the political spectrum. I haven't seen that person.
It appears that the least popular job, or least popular people in society at the moment, are AI CEOs. I mean, you're probably seeing what's going on.
Well, you saw what Sam Altman just had the Molotov cocktail that was actually thrown at his.
And then yesterday again, they said someone shot at his house yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday night again.
Yeah.
Which obviously nobody should support violence of this type.
My God, no. But it's not surprising. And we also had the CEO of United Healthcare gunned down, a year ago, just a few blocks from where you and I are having this conversation right now. There is general anger at the elite. And it's true that the wealthiest people in the United States right now happen to be those tech owners.
Is there a solution here where the technology, which presents us with tremendous potential upsides, can thrive and be successful and make our lives better, but also the average person, the working class people, can also capitalize and benefit from this technology?
Of course there is.
What does that look like?
Well, I mean, first of all, these technologies are already doing extraordinary things in improving productivity and in reducing waste. I mean, recycling doesn't work very well, but with AI, you can recycle in a way that would allow you to actually get that trash product back into a productive format. Who wouldn't want the ability to make micro adjustments in the way that an airplane is navigating real time because of AI that reduces fuel consumption by 10%? Or improve agricultural use. In Ethiopia, you've got over 100 million people and they don't know what to plant and where and when. Suddenly you optimize for that, they have cheaper food. Like these are amazing things. Every day, I see uses for these technologies in companies around the world that blow my mind. But I also see, and again, I focus on politics. And if we blow ourselves up, it's not going to be because of technology. If we blow ourselves up, it's going to be because of people and politics.
What do you mean by that?
That the system is deploying these technologies in inhumane ways. It's allowing the benefits of the opportunities to be captured by a small number of individuals, a small number of companies that write their own rules and don't care about people that are getting angry. So when you ask, violence is the wrong thing. But if you're seeing that people are getting so angry that they're starting to do things that they see the only way that they think that they can respond is outside of the legal framework. It's not by voting for somebody new, but it's by mass action or even violent action, then the politics are really broken.
So do we need like universal basic income or something, or does there need to be an AI tax? Or
I don't think that you go from everybody has a full-time job or aspires to a full-time job to universal basic income in a year. I don't think that happens. But I could easily see pilot programs that say, instead of a 5-day work week in the following areas that we think are going to be disrupted, it's going to be a 4-day work week or a 3-day work week. And we're going to pay you the same amount of money. But that additional day every week is going to be on AI training that will allow you to have a job, either be more effective in your existing job, because only the people that know how to deploy these tools are going to have a job in another 3 or 5 years, or will allow you to transition. But you've got to start spending the money on that now. And that guy that you had that conversation with, I've been watching him publicly. He's not part of the solution. He's saying, I think the Democrats are going to win. Oh, well, I'll be fine. I'm still worth a lot of money, but I'm not going to do anything to actually help facilitate this. Like if the people that are most capable of being aware of these challenges and of addressing them are instead all in winner-take-all mode, then obviously we're going to have a breakdown in society.
It's a tricky situation, isn't it? Because we've seen what happens when governments get involved in technology. Sometimes, even in the UK and the European Union, bloody hell. I remember speaking to, I don't know if I have permission to say his name either, but he is the CTO of one of the biggest technology companies in the world. And he was explaining to me that they can't release their features, this particular piece of hardware. We can't even release it in Europe because the European Union have so much regulation that they've actually created a bunch of issues for us as companies. One of them was that in this particular device, the European Union demand that the battery can be taken out and put back in again. And what this actually means, he was explaining to me, is that we're going to have to buy loads of batteries and keep them on the shelf, and then they're going to go bad. And actually, it's going to be worse for the environment, but also it means that the devices are no longer waterproof. So more devices are going to break, which is even worse for the environment. And this over-regulation
which means that the Europeans are nowhere in terms of technology.
And not competitive.
They're not competitive.
So do you know what he said to me? He goes, I don't think what the Europeans don't realize is we just don't need their market anymore. He said, Brazil's coming online. And all these other big markets are coming online as buyers. So we just can decide just to not sell to Europe.
So there are three systems out there, right? Broadly speaking. One system, the United States system, most power in the hands of the private sector, so much so that they're able to capture the regulatory process, write their own regulations. That turns out that system drives an enormous amount of growth and wealth. The problem is that lots of average Americans do not benefit from it because nobody is looking out for them. Then they get angry and then they lash out. Right? The Chinese system, where the state actually captures the private sector, and they say what the private sector can and can't do. And frequently they own the private sector, state-owned enterprises, right? And that system drives an enormous amount of growth over the long term, but the people have no say over what is and what is not allowed. And that creates a lot of dissent and this lying flat, we're not a part of the system and the solution. Then you have the Europeans. And the European system is very oriented towards, we want to make sure that the social contract works for the citizens. We're very interested in having all of the benefits that people need, but we can't afford them because our system is so heavily regulated, so anti-entrepreneurial that we don't drive the growth that would be necessary to keep paying for the people, right? So obviously, each of these systems have challenges, but the problem comes not in the nature of the system, but in when they become extreme. Americans today want a New Deal, whatever that New Deal looks like. And Trump won because of that. He won because he positioned himself as the outsider that would make sure those things happen, right? He was the guy that was going to end the wars. He was the guy that was going to invest in the United States. America first, not these other countries first. People like that. Take care of your people. That's what they want. People are voting for very simple things. They want to be taken care of. They want to have opportunities for themselves and their families and their communities. They don't want to feel despair. That's what the American dream was all about. That's why my grandparents came here. My grandma, Armenian, her family fled the genocide. She came on Ellis Island. That's why I'm here. I came and I started a company in a land that had great opportunity, but most Americans don't believe that applies to them anymore. And you asking me all these questions about AI, the answer is very simple. Give these people the opportunity to create a dream for themselves and their families in their own countries. If they don't have that, they will eventually revolt against you.
Is that what history tells us happens next in such a situation where the people feel more and more powerless and they feel like they have less and less opportunity?
It doesn't happen everywhere. I mean, let's face it, we've got 25 million people in North Korea that have been, ruled by, a cult figure who they essentially worship for decades now. So history doesn't necessarily tell us that the story always goes well.
But in a democracy?
In a democracy, sometimes democracies go bad, but what we see frequently is pushback against people that are kleptocratic, but it's people that put themselves above the system. And we've seen that in many cases, in many democracies all over the world.
70% of people who add something to their online cart never actually buy it. And that number is based on over 10 years of research. But what I think is even more interesting is what the Baymard Institute discovered. They're a private research company that ran a study which found the average e-commerce store could increase its conversion rate by 35% just by making its checkout easier. Not better marketing or better products, but by delivering a smoother checkout experience. So if you're looking for an easy way to make your checkout process smoother, I want you to think about moving your business onto Shopify. It's the platform we use to sell the 1% diaries and the conversation cards because it's so simple and smart to use. It puts all of our inventory payments and analytics in one place and has so many AI tools to help us get up and running straight away. Not to mention that it grows with you regardless of the stage that your business is at. So if you're ready to fix your checkout process, sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/Bartlett. That's shopify.com/Bartlett. And don't tell anybody. We have finally caved in. So many of you have asked us if we could bundle the conversation cards with the 1% diary. For those of you that don't know, every single time a guest sits here with me in the chair, they leave a question in the diary of a CEO, and then I ask that question to the next guest. We don't release those questions in any environment other than on these incredible conversation cards. These have become a fantastic tool for people in relationships, people in teams, in big corporations, and also family members to connect with each other. With that, we also have the 1% diary, which is this incredible tool to change habits in your life. So many of you have asked if it was possible to buy both at the same time, especially people in big companies. So what we've done is we've bundled them together and you can buy both at the same time. And if you want to drive connection and instill habit change in your company, head to thediary.com to inquire and our team will be in touch. I think the part that I still have this big question mark in my head about is what you do about that. I was reading this morning that Jeff Bezos is investing or raising money, raising $100 billion for, I think it's called Project Prometheus, which is his own AI company. Mm-hmm. You've got Elon with XAI, you've got Anthropic, you've got Demis at Google and Sundar, you've got OpenAI, Sam Altman, you've got all these big tech CEOs that are trying to sort of raise super intelligence like it's a child.
Yeah.
And if they are to be successful, one would assert that intelligence itself is the most powerful commodity, like currency or commodity that there isn't on planet Earth. So those that wield it.
And commodity is right, because Altman talks about you're going to need to pay for intelligence the way you pay for water.
Yeah.
Or pay for gas. And that average American hears that and goes, what? I'm going to have to pay for intelligence?
Yeah.
That feels like something we have free will over. Suddenly you don't. Suddenly a company has control over that.
You know, if you had a wand and you could wave the wand and solve this techno oligarchy, what would you do?
I want three things. I want three types of governance. First, I want to make sure that the United States and China start to have AI arms control conversations. When we were fighting the Soviets, there were no arms control discussions until after 1962. Cuban Missile Crisis. We almost blew up the entire world. That was super dangerous with much, much lower levels of technology. And then after that, we said, oh, maybe we should have a hotline between the two leaders. Oh, maybe we should have deconfliction. Maybe we should not invest in certain areas. Maybe we shouldn't try to develop Star Wars defense, for example. Maybe we should have some arms control agreements that limit, what we do so that it's safer. We desperately need that between the Americans and the Chinese. That's number one. Second thing we need, the financial markets. We all need the financial markets, right? We need them systemically. When there's a financial crisis, the whole world comes together to get out of the financial crisis. And it doesn't matter if you're capitalist or communist. The People's Bank of China, the European Central Bank, the Bank of England, the Fed, they all work together because they are first and foremost technocrats who understand that we need the markets to function. You need something like that for AI. You need an AI stability board so that whenever there is a model that creates a danger to us globally, like Anthropic just did last week. That model is dangerous to all of us globally because any software with the potential bug in it is findable by that model and it can be exploited. That's an incredibly dangerous weapon. So we don't want everyone to have that. So you need at scale, because everyone's going to develop this stuff, you need an AI stability board like the Financial Stability Board that is governed by technocrats, by people that have an independent capacity to identify threats to the systemic environment, the AI environment, that we need to work, that can communicate that to the people that have power and that can immediately attack and address it, right? That's the second thing we need. We don't have that yet. The third thing we need is we have to have an ability to fund AI for people that otherwise would not be able to take advantage of it. We've got half of Africa that doesn't have electricity. The gap between people with electricity and people who don't have electricity is going to be a hell of a lot worse when it's AI. It's going to be a gap between people that act like empowered human beings, hybrid individuals that have AI as a principal relationship and can deploy that knowledge, and people that we won't even treat as human beings.
Like a different species almost.
Like a different species. That's unacceptable. We can't allow humanity to develop that way. So we have to spend the money to ensure that everyone has access. We aren't close to that.
What about the domestic economy here in the United States or in the UK or any of these countries that are developing the technology?
Same as the last point. It's the exact same thing.
Okay, so you've got to also fund...
Yeah, it can't just be global. I mean, the Americans will not care about this. If this is like for sub-Saharan Africa, but whatever, right? It's them. I'm saying this is something that is necessary for humanity. But when I looked at Artemis going around the moon, we're looking down. I don't see borders. I see 8 billion people. I mean, if anyone that came down that wasn't being shot up from the Earth and came down, anyone that came down to the Earth would look at us and they say, oh, look at this, 8 billion people. They don't see borders, right? And the first thing they would learn if they learned how we actually operate with our 8 billion people is, wow, you guys, given the technology you're developing, you have nowhere near adequate governance for 8 billion people. You guys are all divided and all of these short-term decisions you're making that are so inefficient, and you're going to destroy yourselves. That's what they'd say. That's what they say. And I say that as a person who is a citizen of the country that created the United Nations, because we understood the last time we almost destroyed ourselves in a world war, we can't do that anymore. So we need more global governance. We need more forums that bring everyone together, not that divide us apart. We're not heading in that direction right now.
We are not heading in that direction right now.
Yes.
I mean, we're certainly heading in the opposite direction in every sense of the word.
In the opposite direction, in most senses of the word. But technologically, one could imagine that we're developing the tools that will help us move in that direction if we wish to.
There is another version of the future, isn't there, where sometimes I question whether it's possible because the human condition is so, contaminated with all of these sort of darker parts of ourselves. But sometimes I wonder if there is like a version of the future which is utopia.
I don't see how there isn't. I mean, I don't see how you allow human beings to create the kind of tools that we have and not have the ability to use them for good. The big stories of the world over the past 50 years, my lifetime, those big stories have been about growth. Those big stories have been about how human beings are living for longer with better education and better healthcare and more wealth and less starvation and less poverty. Those have been the big stories of the last 50 years. Now, you can say maybe it's a blip, but actually when you look at humans' history on the planet, it's generally moved towards more capacity. We've just had a couple of really bad episodes.
And information spreads so quickly that we hear about these bad episodes in a way that we wouldn't have otherwise. It feels
that's also true.
The algorithm's serving me up what's going on 10,000 miles that way.
And I worry the most about that. I worry the most about people getting programmed. I'm not worried about artificial general intelligence. I'm worried about human beings becoming more computer-like. When you spend all of your time on your smartphone, that is a computer programming a human being, and we're acting more like the computer when we know that we're not like that. We know that we're more like who we are over the last few hours. We're sitting here, we're having a conversation with each other. I've never met you before. We know a bit about each other, but we're having a real conversation. That's a humane conversation. As soon as it gets intermediated by algorithms, as soon as you get programmed into a lane, we become much more inhuman. And I worry, that's why I hate prediction markets. The idea that we're going to, instead of looking at our political institutions as things that we built that serve us, instead we create a casino out of them. And we only care about whether we're in or out of the money. That human beings don't operate that way. Companies that want to line their pockets make us work that way. We're being forced away from being our better selves. We need regulations and governance models and companies that help us be more of our better selves.
What's interesting is, as a podcaster, you sit in this really interesting position where I don't have like a boss or an overlord telling me who I can interview and who I can't. And my team know me so well now that they would never even mention the implications of me interviewing someone to me. And when I say that is like, they would never come to me and say, Stephen, you should interview Ian, but just so you know, this is his politics. And if you interview him, these people might scream at you. Oh, yeah. They know me so well that they would never even mention it. So I say this to say that I have the opportunity to be like truly independent. And that means that, last week we had Ivanka Trump on, I had Michelle Obama on, then Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, and I've interviewed Mamdani. And it's funny when you sit in this position and you look at your, the list of people that want to come on the show and that you've asked, can we reach out to these people? And you see every name. And yet that having a conversation, because of the algorithms, with someone that half my audience don't agree with, is going to cause like real anger. But like, it's what I also find to be really funny is like when I meet these people in real life that half my audience hates, for some reason,
you connect with them.
I can see like a lot of the time they have a disagreement about the path, but they all agree on the destination.
Well, no one's a villain of their own story. The one thing I would tweak of what you just said, you said because you're independent, you have the opportunity, right, to do what you want and to say what you want, to interview whoever you want, handle you. I think you have the obligation.
Yeah.
In this environment, independence is a responsibility because there are so many people that are not in your position or my position, that aren't independent, that can be fired, and they do not have the same opportunity. And instead, we can't be angry at those people. We have to recognize that, no, we are fortunate enough to be independent, and if you can't be fired, we have an obligation to be out there and above the 50% of people that are going to hate you for whatever it is.
Can I ask you a question then? Do you think I need to say something to the audience on why this is so important?
Well, of course you do. I think you do that through your conversations, but I think being mindful of it is important. I mean, it's about being authentic to who you are. I mean, you and I may not have exactly the same values. We may not have the same priorities, but if you're being honest about yourself with your audience, about what matters, you're doing that through your podcast, your conversation. It's about never selling out when you do that. It's about never pulling back and saying, oh no, that might irritate someone, so I'm not going to say it. That's not who you are. Yeah. You can't do that. Yeah. Right? Because again, that's what mainstream media does, and that's why they're in trouble.
I completely agree. And I think it's funny because sometimes I think that the audience might not understand that. But the reality is, in the real world, when I go outside and I speak to people, they understand that and they appreciate that. It's just sometimes, I think, vocal minorities that really don't want to hear from someone that disagrees with them at all. But I just
are they really vocal minorities, or are they bots? Are they algorithmically created?
No.
When you and I are on the street and people come up to us, and it's random.
Yeah.
It's overwhelmingly friendly.
Yeah.
Maybe, I think the digital world is not really a human world. And that's why it's so much more important to do more live, just get out there, also do more long form. The more that we can do to resist the algorithm, the better we'll be as a planet, the better we'll be as a species.
I'm so in love with the idea of like talking to people you disagree with or just have a difference of opinion with. I'm so in love by I remember reading a quote once that said, if you have the same opinion, if you have the same complete set of opinions as one group of people, those are not your opinions. And I find that to be really, really true because I can steal and take ideas and opinions that I agree with from almost everybody that I speak to. And this is such a strange position to take in an algorithmically driven world where the echo chamber will unbelievably reinforce and protect me if I just choose a side.
That's right. And part of my life that resists this is that my view is that if you hold the same opinions as the world is changing, you will be wrong.
True, yeah.
But the algorithm doesn't want you to change your views.
Yeah. Is there any closing remarks that you have for the listeners based on the journey we've been on?
I mean, again, I know you're based, you're Brit.
I live in Los Angeles as well.
Yeah, I know. But still, I mean, you got an accent and I mean, you're global. We're 4 years old, we bought Botswana, right? The whole story. I mean, the fact is that you've managed to build something global without promoting irresponsible lies and hatred and dislike, and I don't think you're bad for people, right? And we need more of that. Look, I mean, I think about when I think about where power is coming from, it's not just tech companies, it's also people outside of established political force. When I was a kid, here's what we're talking about. I was in second grade. I think my teacher's name was Miss Kritikos. She was Greek. And she was asking us, we were talking about the elections, and she was asking us who wanted to be president. And she was talking about what it meant to be president. I remember raising my hand, of course, and everyone's talking. I was thinking how cool it would be. And then all of a sudden she said, Ian, well, why would you want to be president? And I looked around and I realized that I was the only person that had my hand up, which did not make any sense to me at the time. I would not have my hand up today. I thought when I grew up, I really believed that like public service was the ultimate expression of how you make a difference. That is no longer true. But it's not because our system is so broken, it's so bad. It's rather that we have created all sorts of opportunities for people to really make a difference globally outside of political institutions. And I've devoted my life to that professionally, and I think it's incredibly important. Right. And maybe people don't all agree with me all the time. Obviously, that's fine. But they do know that I really care about what I'm doing. I'm trying to get better over time. Right. That's all we can do. And I don't think that has to be. It turns out I'll go through my life and hopefully I'll have a long and healthy life. And I don't think I'll ever have served in public office, but hopefully continue to have more and more impact in a good way over time.
Yeah, I remember hearing Neil deGrasse Tyson say something very similar, where he said the most powerful people on planet Earth are no longer the elected; they are those that influence the electorate, because they end up going to the polls and making that decision. And so it is a huge amount of responsibility in such a world for people like yourself, who I do think do a public service in educating all of us. I mean, look at all these books in front of me. Unbelievable how many books you've written and how incredible they all are.
I don't know how you found them all, but they are out there. Yeah.
I'm going to link all of them below, and I would ask my audience to take a look at the variety of different. I think this is the most recent one, the Power.
That's most recent. Yeah, another one coming out next year.
2.
Yeah.
What's the new book coming
Don't
out?
have a title yet.
Oh, you don't have a title? Okay.
No.
The Power of Crisis: How 3 Threats and Our Response Will Change the World. And in this book, you talk more about AI as one of those threats as well. But I'm going to link them all below, and I highly recommend people go and follow you both on your YouTube channel, where you make content frequently about these issues as they're evolving, if you want to keep in touch with Ian's perspective, and also over on your X page. You've got over 1 million followers over on X.
I do.
Big audience over there. We have a closing tradition on this podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing who they're leaving it for.
Okay.
And the question left for you is, I cannot read this. Okay, here we go. When you are on your deathbed, how will you describe your life?
Unanticipated.
Sounds like a good life.
Definitely. I mean, let's face it, my optimism comes from the fact that we have no idea what we did to deserve being here. Yeah. So every day is kind of like it's a bit of a gift, right? And the more you can remember that, the more I think the better off we are.
Ian, thank you. I really appreciate all the work that you do. And I've been watching you for many, 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 many years. And whenever the world descends into turmoil and I'm looking for someone who can turn the lights on for me, you're the person that I come to. Typically on YouTube, I watch most of your stuff on there, but I also follow you on X and find your takes incredibly accessible and demystifying, which is, I think, exactly what we need more of at this time. So you are doing a public service, even though you're not running a country. You're helping people like me understand all of this craziness, and therefore hopefully live better lives and make better decisions as to who we elect and how we think about the world and how we treat one another. So thank you for doing that. It's a great service to humanity.
Well, it's very motivating to hear that, frankly. And I promise you I'll keep doing my best on it.
Thank you. YouTube have this new crazy algorithm where they know exactly what video you would like to watch next based on AI and all of your viewing behavior. And the algorithm says that this video is the perfect video for you. It's different for everybody looking right now. Check this video out, and I bet you might love it.